Hello and welcome to the Knittery Beal podcast. My name is Sarah and I live here with my husband and my two children on the west slope of the Sierra Nevada foothills. And this is a podcast primarily about knitting. Today is Saturday, February 19th, and I want to welcome you. I've actually recorded my entire podcast and forgot to introduce myself, say hello, and tell you that this is podcast number 11. So here we are. And in fact, I did record a podcast a couple weeks ago. Completely great podcast, all my information, then completely deleted it because I was trying to restart a brand new phone of mine. So anyway, here we are again, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks so much. This pair of socks that I knit for my buddy. They are finished. These are her no wool socks that I made for her. And of course, it's interesting because I did buy two skeins, and so naturally they had slightly different dye lots, and so one of them you can see has slightly more speckling in this blue section than this one over here, but I think that they are definitely a matching set. So I think she will enjoy them very, very much. And this is what we had left of that yarn, and the colorway was called, again, Mallard. So I think she will enjoy those very, very much. Next, I did want to show you the last thing I forgot to show the last time I was podcasting, which was my first edition of my no-frill sweater. So I will first show you what it still looks like because I have not woven in one single end of this sweater. It's gone through the wash. I've worn it many, many times. And yet this is what the inside of that sweater looks like. Yes, these are all the ends. And of course it's even inside out. It's been sitting wrinkled up, sitting inside of my drawer. So pretty much that is my no frill sweater by Petite Knit, and it is made out of a cheap acrylic yarn that I bought from Joann's, I think, many, many moons ago. And it was called a DK weight. It was called something DK. Anyway, this is my sweater. Oops. And of course, like I said, I haven't woven in any of the ends, but let's see, this is the front. So what happened is I started with this colorway right here, and I knew I wasn't going to have enough for that colorway to make an entire sweater. So what I did is I found that I had two balls of this kind of stripy colorway that was called like, was something having to do with Hawaii. I remember it was called like Aloha, or I don't know, something like that. And so I striped it across the top and then put back in the other greenish colorway, and it created some very long stripes. So once I got to the sleeves, what I did is I just did lots and lots of little stripes to match kind of the width of the stripes that came across the top of the sweater, and not big chunky stripes it would have made because it was obviously a smaller circumference around the sleeves. So essentially I was just trying to play yarn chicken the whole time and use every single last little scrap of this yarn, and it worked. So this is a very, very relaxing, comfortable, wonderful, squishy little sweater, and I can throw it in the wash, the dryer, and honestly some of those little ends are kind of felting together themselves, even though it's just acrylic yarn. So it's a very nice first to knit as my first try at the Petite Knit no frills sweater. So really like it, and I have definitely worn it many times, and one of these days maybe I'll weave in some ends. So after we completed that no frills sweater, I was very excited at my yarn crawl to knit another one, and I was looking for what she recommends, which is a fingering weight yarn held together with a mohair yarn. So I found from Atelier Yarn Company, and I think I did mention that. Oops, it's over here. There was a yarn I really, oops, just turned on my TV. So I found this colorway called from the Nerdy Fibers, and it is called Box of Rain. And I think I showed that on one of my podcasts. And so this was all I had left after I made, oh, it's inside out. So let me turn it right side in. I've already worn this, I mean, so many times. And the first time I wore it into the grocery store, a person gave me a compliment and said that they adored my sweater. It was so exciting. So this is my no frill sweater by Petite Knit again. And I really made it, I think, just slightly too short. However, I'm going to scoot back a little bit so you can really see how wonderful it is. It's just glorious. And so the other yarn I ended up knitting with it is I bought 2 skeins of Yarn Bee from Hobby Lobby, and it is in the Colorway, I think Amber or Ember or something like that. Chestnut Ember. So that is the other strand. So I held together the mohair with this to make my no frill sweater, and it's just awesome. And of course I did try the helical knitting, but I think what I ended up doing, and you can see the giant stripe there of gray kind of going throughout, is I started with the exact same end of both of my second balls, because I was going through between both of the balls of mohair, and I was still though pulling from the same exact starting point, and so I got the same exact stripe throughout my circular knitting of the body. So that's just how it goes sometimes. So that's where we are on the no frill sweater. I have 2 of them finished since the last time I saw you, and that is pretty exciting. Oh, there's a doggy, and it is not my doggy in this house. That's Marley, the next door neighbor's doggy. So something else I wanted to talk about was one new cast on I have, and this is kind of a work on it when I feel like it type of cast on, is a pair of socks for my auntie. So she does tune into my podcast, and she says, I would love a pair of socks. She says, I won't hold my breath, don't worry, until I get them. So what I'm doing with hers is Patons Kroy. It's another one of those balls I got from the good old Goodwill. And I cast on a nice pair of socks, and you can see the little stripiness going on with those, which is really, really nice. And I think she'll enjoy that pair of socks. So hopefully those will be, this is just my first sock for now that I'm working on, and hopefully those will be ready for her soon. See a little other yarn in there. So then what else I have? Let's take a look. I have this other bag of stuff that I wanted to show. Oh yes, okay. So I bought that ball of yarn from the Yarn Crawl, and it was from West Yorkshire Spinners, and it was called Robin. Now, that name right there is a clue to the fact that it is named after their bird series. And I have now finished a pair of socks. Now these are Shortie socks, because what happened is I cast on a long pair of socks for my sister-in-law, and I cast on with my normal 56 stitch count, and they are just a slight bit too tight. So I want her to be comfortable. So I aggressively blocked them and thought maybe they would be okay. So what I'm going to do is her husband is here today. So I am helping my husband work on the house. And so what I did is we went to the yarn shop after I had finished this sock, and I said, why don't I make you a pair of shorties? And I would keep this pair when I finish the other one, and you can have a shorty pair. And why don't we pick out some heels and toes contrasting colors? So we went to our local yarn shop, Lofty Lou's, and we bought this colorway here in United Sock and this in United Sock. So that is what I did, as I made her a little shorty pair of socks. Now I still have 47 grams of yarn left in that ball. I cannot believe it. And so this only used up 30 grams. So what I may do, so I'm going to have her try these on. Actually, I've decided I'm going to give them to her, and I messaged her this morning. I'm going to have her try this on. If indeed it is still a little snug, which, I mean, I want her to be comfortable in her socks. because this is a 64 stitch count, and we know because I had her try on just the cuff when she was here. After I had finished the sock, I just did a little cuff, and she said, oh yeah, those fit great. So I'm gonna see if indeed these fit her. I'll do 56 stitches again. But if they don't, now I know if this was only 30 and I have 47 grams left, I could definitely reknit them at a 64 stitch count. It may be slightly shorter, but they will definitely still be long socks. But wouldn't it be great? 2 whole pairs of socks from one 100 gram ball of yarn. I think that West Yorkshire Spinners really, really goes a long way. So that's very exciting, and she'll be getting those at least 1 pair today when he goes home, and then possibly another pair when I knit the second one, whether it be at a 56 stitch count or 64 stitches. So this is on a size 1 needle, that size US 1, which I think is 2.25 millimeters, which is what I always do my socks on. I like that gauge very, very much. And here is that ball of yarn. This is 47 grams I have left after all of these socks I've already made out of that yarn. Can you even believe that? That is a lot of socks out of just 1 ball of yarn. So very exciting. Now, the other thing I have knit recently is another thing. I've kind of just been obsessed with mohair. So I have knit out of mohair and a fingering held together. This Parkview hat with this adorable giant pom-pom. So this is the Parkview hat by Tracie from the Grocery Girls, and it is a very, very easy pattern. I think I knit this up in like a night. It is very, very quick. And then I just didn't weave in the ends at the end, like take it off the needles. It was sitting on the needles in the last 7 stitches for like weeks. I don't know what was wrong with me. But anyway, I finally wove in the ends, and this is the Parkview hat. Very, very simple little ribbed hat, and it's got the cute little pom-pom, but very soft because it's a fingering held together with a mohair. So that is the Parkview hat, and it is made out of, I think I have the yarn here. It is made out of Hedgehog fibers in their Villain colorway. You probably remember me knitting some Villain socks for my daughter last year. And then this beautiful, beautiful mohair from our local dyer. What is her name? Lisa Souza. So this is her coral colorway, and this is the Villain socks. And that is what made this gorgeous hat. Isn't it just awesome? You could not get lost in a hat like this, for sure. Nobody would lose you. So let's see, what else do I have? Oh, I also have this yarn that I got on the yarn crawl, and I have now finished an entire pair of socks. Now, I'm not sure if I showed you this pair of socks in my last video, because I'm not sure if I finished them by then. So I will show them to you now. And I have already worn these socks, and in fact, I think they're even dirty right now. But this is how they knit up. Look at that micro striping. Isn't that adorable? And they are the coziest socks I have ever knit in my life. They are so soft and squishy. So this is a fingering weight, but I would definitely call it a plump fingering weight because it feels so luxurious, and they are just, like I said, very, very cozy. So that's another pair of the socks that I have knit. And then what we also have is I've been working on a kind of, yes, a fix. So my mother-in-law, I'm sorry, not my mother-in-law, my mother, she got a little hole in her sock. So I knit these socks, I think you probably remember last year, and she coveted them so much, and I ended up giving them to her. However, although I knit the toe in a fingering weight yarn, it wasn't really a sock yarn, even though it's fingering weight, which is what you normally make socks out of. And so I knit them out of this alpaca yarn, and I probably know better than to put, I mean, normally even when you knit a pair of socks that are meant to be socks, you reinforce them with the good sock yarn that has a nylon content in it, in the toes and the heels. But no, I just went ahead and used this cozy alpaca yarn in the toe, and she has a hole in them. So what I did is I bought, again, a ball of United sock yarn in black. And so I've already redone this toe right here, and you can see looks just about the same. So basically what I did is I just cut, I picked up the stitches and I reknit the toe, which is very, very easy. So that's all I have to do is fix this little other sock for her, and she will have her socks back just as good as new, if not better, really. So anyway, yes. And I am, so my friend, let's see, Susie Q Bakes on Instagram, she had gifted me this wonderful ball of Rasta from Malabrigo, and it is in the colorway Carrots, which is just perfect. But what I ended up doing is I cast on with some Galway wool, which is, you know, a non-superwash, very rustic little wool, and I made some Thrumbed Mittens. Well, I made the one Thrumbed Mitten because it was the day that it snowed here in California, and we had the craziest snowstorm we've had in many, many years. I got about 6 inches of snow at my house, which is pretty good for my area. And I finished up this mitten and my daughter wore it outside. That's why it actually already looks very, very, very worn. So what you do is you knit along and then you make this thing called a thrum. And normally you would use roving to make the little thrums, which is this little short piece of yarn, which is what you saw earlier, this very short little piece of orange yarn that I had attached to that other sock. But anyway, and what you do is you knit, and you knit like 5 stitches in between, and then you kind of offset it every few rows, and you get this wild stuff happening inside. It's so much fun. So my son, he says, that looks like flaming hot juice. So you don't have to weave in these ends. They are meant to be nice and thick, and they end up felting kind of in your hands as you sweat, and the heat and the moisture of you wearing them, you know, happen. And so that's what the inside of the mitten looks like. It looks like this. And so basically you're just knitting with this little very short piece of fabric, and you kind of like do almost this duplicate stitch, but there's a technique for it, and you can look it up on YouTube, I'm sure. But you create this very, very puffy little mitten. So this is my third mitten. So I have not finished the second one. I literally did it that day that we had the snowstorm, and I need to finish it up. So I will be doing that at some point. And we'll get to that. So this was the Galway. No, I don't have it here. But anyway, so that is those are my Thrumbed Mittens. Now I am working on another project, and it is called the Ranunculus. Now, you have probably heard about the Ranunculus if you follow Selma Knits, Little Big Knits. She is all about the Ranunculus sweater. She loves to knit that pattern, and she even started a knit along about it last year and all of that. And so I will show you what my Ranunculus is looking like. Last but not least is this new sweater I have been knitting on, this Ranunculus, and that is what I went to go get. And here it is. I have already split for the sleeves. Oh, look at this. So as we all know with lace, the magic is in the blocking. So it looks very tiny right now, but I have put it on and it fits me just great. And I am now on Body Island, as Not Quite Enough Yarn says. She thinks that kind of sounds like you're talking about some true crime there. But anyway, Body Island is where I am. Lots and lots of stockinette in the round for days and days and days. So I've got about, I don't know, maybe 3 inches of body, and I probably need to have about 10 inches at least from my underarms down. So we'll see if I can't get that done this weekend. And I actually, because Ashley at Nerdy Fibers is so quite generous, when I ordered this nice little ball of yarn from her, guess what she did? She threw in a second ball. Ah, I was so excited. So it is one of her one pot wonders, as she wrote on the side of it. And so this is the same yarn I had used, or the same maker, dyer, as I had used for my my no frill sweater, that Mohair. So this is her fingering weight in, like I said, Juicy is the I guess, the yarn that she says is her base. And it is a 4-ply fingering, 100% superwash merino wool, 438 grams or yards to 100 grams. So that is what I'm knitting this gorgeous ranunculus out of. So, and I'm really excited because it's really just in time for spring to have kind of a lacy sweater that I can wear. And it's very nice and lightweight. Now, the ranunculus is normally knit on a very large needle, and to get a very, very loose and flowy and oversized short sleeve top. But I found somebody who had done one on their project pages, and they said that they had used a couple needle sizes smaller, and they did it with this fingering weight. And so I'm kind of following her guidelines of how she did it, and it's working out really, really great. So I'm very excited that I found that. I mean, there's like 2,200 people who have made this on Ravelry alone. So of course there's lots of people who have tried it, and their product is just picture perfect. So I decided to try it as well. So now I do not have to knit a short sleeve version. I'm going to knit at least, I think, a 3/4 length version, or maybe even a long sleeve, because I think even in the spring I would want a long sleeve version, but I'm not sure yet. We will find out. So that was my ranunculus sweater. And next we have my new beret. Well, okay, I call it a beret, but apparently it's called a tam. I'm not sure the difference between a tam and a beret, but anyway, this is by Justine, who was the same designer that I knit the Emerald Bay shawl out of for the Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl. So she has designed this gorgeous new tam and mittens. So here is the tam. So as you can see, it does look like a beret, and it's got a little bit of structure to it. Now, I actually caused it to have this much structure. So it is knit in a DK weight yarn, and it is called it's the new yarn from Jimmy Bean's wool, and it is called Reno Rafter 7. So apparently University of Nevada, they bred these sheep for their wool, and then they spun the yarn into this new yarn, and Madeline Tosh was in on the dyeing of it. So this is the Reno Rafter 7 yarn, and this is Justine Chanel's Aspen Grove Tam. So I'm gonna put it on, see how it goes here, so you can see how it looks. But oh, it's very cute. So look at this. Oh. Maybe I can pull my camera up a little bit more. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that adorable? So I slightly felted it because I felt like it was a little too droopy, like it was more beret-like. And in the picture for the pattern, she has it kind of standing up, or I'm sorry, in the picture on her Instagram feed, she has it standing up on the girl's forehead a little bit more. And so when it was kind of more floppy, it didn't seem to sit right on my head. So I wet it, and I stuck it in the dryer for 4 minutes at a time. I like seriously sat by the dryer as I was felting it, and took it out. I put it in a sheet, a pillowcase, and I dried it. I took it out, felt it, see how dry it was and how much it had shrunk, because it did shrink just a little bit. I mean, I felted this hat because it's pure, non-superwash wool, the nice rustic wool, but it now is so soft after I've washed it and dried it, that little tiny bit. But oh, it's just too cute. It's too much fun. So anyway, something like that. Woo! And guess who wants one? My mother-in-law. I mean, my mother. Not my mother-in-law. My mother. So we'll have to see. She just got back from Tucson, and I'm heading over to her house right now, and I will have to take it, and she will have to try it on, and we'll see. Maybe she wants it, and I will have to give it to her. That means I'll just have to knit another one. Yay! All right. So that's pretty much all I have to talk about today, and yeah, not too much else. I think I have another acquisition. Oh, that's right, from a friend of mine. So one of my friends that lives in Michigan was out visiting California to visit her mother-in-law, and she gifted me this very nice, oh, isn't it just my color, orange, colorway of a fingering yarn. So very nice of her. And thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you got to stay with me today and talk about some knitting and some yarn and all the goodness. And I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. Thanks again, and be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for some more knitting content. Thank you. Bye-bye.